In the last episode, we explored Selby Gardens in Sarasota. They were having the Salvador Dali exhibit with all these fun little artistic touches throughout the gardens. But tonight was one of the nights that we had not booked ahead of time. So our plan was we had to head toward the interior of Florida, toward Highland Hammock State Park. And after doing some research, I found Peace River Campground. They have a whole wilderness tent area that is right on the Peace River. I called ahead and they said they had a tent site right on the water for us, so we were going up in that direction.
So don't let the weight of the world slow you down. And if you search for the meaning of life, it won't be found. So take your insecurities and leave them all behind. Let's learn to make the most of our time.
The drive from Sarasota going east toward the interior of Florida was a very nice drive. There are a lot of farms in this area, lots of horses and big open spaces, just beautiful farms. So we enjoyed that drive, but we were really looking forward to getting to see the interior of Florida and most of all having a waterfront site for our tent. We arrived at the campground to check in at the office just minutes before they were supposed to close, so we felt really lucky that we were able to make it before they were closed, and they had just a couple campsites left. But as I was filling out the check-in paperwork, I realized that something wasn't quite right. So we made a dumb mistake. When we were driving over to the campground that we're going to stay at tonight, because this is our unbooked night, I found this campground that had like a separate tent area from the RVs, and that's where we were going to go. It's the Peace River Campground. But there's two Peace River campgrounds. One is 1,000 trails, and it's just RVs, and the other one is the Arcadia Peace River Campground, and that one has the wilderness area with the tent sites, which is where we were going to stay. But as I was in the office paying for the tent site, and she pulled out the map and started showing me the grid of all the different trailer sites, I was like, oh crap, this is not the right place. So we're staying in an RV resort. I feel like we always say how we hate RV resorts and their parking lots. I guess it was kind of bound to happen that we would end up staying at one. So it's just one night, and then we're gonna go to the state park tomorrow, so we're parked next to somebody's truck. Slightly disappointing, but it'll be alright. We'll go walk around, look at everybody's rigs. We just moved over one campsite because we got there and we were like right next to somebody's Jeep, and there's no picnic table at that site. We were just standing there staring at each other like, what do we do now? So we just moved down one site. So now we have a picnic table and a palm tree. So that's not so bad, right? Trying to hide my disappointment. If we were traveling with our Scamp trailer on this trip, it really wouldn't have been a big deal. It's actually a pretty nice RV park. But when you're camping with a tent, it's just different. When you're the only tent in the whole place, and we were expecting to be at a secluded riverfront site, and instead we were setting up our tent next to somebody's truck right on the main exit road of this RV park. So there were constantly giant rigs going right past us and Class A's that were going in and out. So it was really anything but quiet. I started to put the stove together and we were going to make some coffee because we needed to regroup. It's a bear-free zone.
Bear-free zone.
And bathroom is walking distance.
Cool.
After we had some coffee, we decided to walk around and explore the RV resort. Mostly we wanted to look at some of the other rigs that were in the area, see if there were any interesting truck campers or maybe even a Scamp. It's a cute cabin. Oh, it's a puppy. Hello, dog dog. Hello. Are you all pretty?
A lot of people are staying here for a while.
Yeah, I think these are like snowbirders.
Yeah. Or river.
I mean, you can touch it, but it's no guarantee you're going to keep your hand. It's actually not as bad as I thought. I mean, there's some road noise for sure, but it's kind of nice. There's trails that go around the side.
Yeah.
I'm going to change the name of the channel to Patrick Walking. It's just hours and hours of Patrick walking.
Yep.
We were probably the youngest people staying at the resort that night. Most of the rigs were big Class A's and fifth wheels, and it looked like a lot of seasonal campers. When we got back to our campsite, I started cooking dinner. I figured this would be a good night to make one of my favorite camping meals, which is cheese tortellini with vegetables and tomato sauce. And while I was getting dinner ready, Patrick started setting up the tent, and we actually had a new neighbor on the other side, this very nice couple that was staying in a van. We had a little bit of a late dinner that night, and then we got out our earplugs, which are essential travel gear, especially when you are camping somewhere like this, where you're right next to the main road and the bathrooms. And there was also some rain in the forecast tonight, so we were hoping that we would get some good sleep. There are definitely some challenges being the only tent in an RV resort. One of the things that we had not anticipated was that they clean the bathrooms first thing in the morning. So for the first hour and a half of the day, the bathrooms were closed, and that's fine for everybody else who has a bathroom in their rig, but we were in a tent, and this is not exactly the type of area where you can just go into the woods to do what you need to do. So that was a very long morning. You just want to put the tent away first? Or?
Yeah, I guess so. We're just not really gonna put it away. We're just gonna pile it. Yeah.
We were pretty eager to get packed up and move on to the state park. Hopefully have a more secluded tent site for the last 2 nights of our trip. Neither of us really slept that well. I woke up several times because giant Class A's and these huge diesel trucks were driving right past our tent, and their headlights would shine right on the tent. So definitely not the best sleep ever. But we packed up the tent and had some peanut butter and honey on bread, and we got ready to go to Highland Hammock State Park. And this time we were extra careful to make sure that we had the correct address in the GPS.
Feel like you guys leaving yet?
Are we late? Oh, we're 3 minutes late.
We're 3 minutes.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Nothing on the table? No expensive cameras?
Yeah. Yeah, I got camera 1, camera 2. we left the Peace River RV resort and drove a little bit farther east toward Highland Hammock State Park. And this ended up being 2 of my favorite days of this whole trip through Southwest Florida. When we got to the campsite yesterday and we realized that it was actually the wrong campsite with almost the same name, I was pretty disappointed, but I have to say it was really better than I was expecting. It's weird when you are the only tent with like these huge rigs, and a lot of them too. I mean, like giant Class A's, Class C's, huge setups, and we were like,
turn left onto North Hammock Road.
We were the only people there in a tent, so it's a little weird. And just like little things, like this morning at 9 o'clock in the morning, they were cleaning the bathrooms, so the bathrooms were closed. That's fine for everybody who has an RV.
Turn left onto North Hammock Road.
And they can go in their RV, but when you're in a tent, you're kind of stuck. We were like waiting and waiting for them to finish cleaning the bathroom.
North Hammock Road for 4 miles.
But overall, like I thought it was going to be really loud. It was actually super quiet, I guess, because it was like us and a bunch of retired people. So it was actually very quiet and kind of nice when we were walking around the resort yesterday. So we were all almost like thinking, you know, maybe one day we'll do the 1,000 Trails membership with the Scamp. And I think I was missing the Scamp a little bit last night. Like, oh, you know, I mean, it's not that great having a tent there, but if we had the Scamp, it would have been pretty cool. Yeah.
Be the only Scamp there.
We walked around and looked, and there were no Scamps. There was one Airstream. That was the only kind of unusual thing that we saw, but everything else was big Class A's and really nice rigs, but a little too big for us.
About you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all fair to be aware, and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again.